Hi everyone. It's time for another one of the great covers in our newly begun Great Covers series here on Virgin Rock. And this project is a sort of collaborative effort because these covers are chosen via polls by my patrons on Patreon, and it's a lot of fun to see what the community says. Oh, this is the one you should focus on this time. So today we are returning to one of my very first listens, meaning when I began this journey over a year ago now, a year and a half now? That's crazy. Anyway, the first one I listened to was a Queen song, and the second one I listened to, the very second one in this entire journey, was Beatles' She's Leaving Home. And if you go digging through the videos here on the channel, you'll find it. In fact, Vlad will put a link right here. You can check it out if you want to see that way back when I was totally green and inexperienced in front of the camera and everything. But now I'm returning to this She's Leaving Home via a cover, and it is Harry Nilsson. Harry Edward Nilsson III, sometimes credited as Nilsson, was an American singer-songwriter who reached the peak of his success in the early 1970s. His work is characterized by pioneering vocal overdub experiments, a return to the Great American Songbook, and fusions of Caribbean sounds. It sounds like an interesting mix. Nilsson was one of the few major pop rock recording artists to achieve significant commercial success without performing major public concerts or touring regularly. Wow, so his popularity and reputation was built entirely via recordings, I guess. 2012, Rolling Stone ranked Nilsson as 62nd on its list of the 100 greatest songwriters of all time. He's up there with the greats. Then this is going to be fun, kind of returning to my beginnings, as well as looking forward to, well, at first listen to a new artist. Here we go.
Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock as the day begins, silently closing her bedroom door, leaving the note that she hoped would say more. She goes downstairs to the kitchen, clutching her handkerchief, quietly turning the back door key, stepping outside, she is free. We gave her most of our lives, sacrificed most of our lives. We gave her everything money could buy. Home after living alone for so many years.
I'm sitting here with this expression of amazement and, oh wow, what is this I'm hearing? What is this? It's so different, and at the same time, it is so much the same. It's well, of course, it has, I guess I would say, a more advanced recording technology to it. I'm hearing things happening in the recording process and editing process that I haven't heard on the Beatles. And of course, I understand by now they were the pioneers of a lot of techniques, but recording technology when they were doing things was really rather elementary considered to what came later. Well, this one, it doesn't say when in the intro. I don't have when this recording was done, but it certainly sounds like it's been a bit down the road as far as technological and practices developed in the recording studio. That aside, I'm fascinated by the mix of instruments. It sounds not like a full orchestra. Instead, it sounds like a collaboration of several independent ensembles. let's say, a woodwind ensemble and a string ensemble, as well as a few keyboards and other things mixed in. He didn't use a harp at the beginning, did he? In fact, he didn't even use that overdub echo, which fascinated me the first time around. And there's even a harpsichord in here. Such an interesting choice. More sonically varied. At the same time, it feels very respectful towards the original, and it preserves so much of the charm of the original, the beauty of the original. His voice is different too. I guess I'll listen a bit more before I comment on his voice.
Father snores as his wife gets into her dressing gown, picks up the letter that's lying there, standing alone at the top of the stairs. She breaks down and cries to her husband, "Daddy, our baby's gone." Why would she treat us so thoughtlessly? How could she do this to me? We never thought of ourselves, never thought for ourselves. We struggled hard all our lives to get by. Friday morning.
Right, I'm going to stop again because I'm afraid that I will forget everything. So, I didn't mention this funny little bit of percussion, which the intro said the fusions of Caribbean sounds, and I hear some funny little small tappity tap tap percussion type things that sound rather traditional style percussion instruments. Probably, I don't know exactly what they are, but he's mixed them in so naturally. They fit incredibly well, and then of course that little rat-a-tat-tat on the drums was a bit of a surprise, almost like, are we going to have a marching band in here as well? No, but there's a drum like that in here. And then I love the way these woodwinds are just down in the deeper range, really carrying the line and adding some different textures and qualities. It's really a textural piece of music, isn't it? It strikes me as being, well, of course, it's more multidimensional in the texture realm than the Beatles version. And I guess I would say that his singing of this is perhaps a bit more dramatic, sentimental. It doesn't, if you remember from my first listen of the Beatles, that was back when I had the silly idea of grading the performances and the songs. And I didn't give it highest marks. A lot of people were upset with me about that. I didn't give it highest marks because it came across as a rather distant, unemotional telling of the story of an incredibly emotional moment in the lives that are recounted there. And I found fault with that at the time. Of course, a lot has happened since then, and I've had a lot of time to reflect on that, to hear your views on it. And I can now appreciate it for being what it is, and I've decided that it's really quite suitable, because what it does, it's not giving the emotional drama of the moment, and it's not attempting to. Instead, it's giving this feeling of incredible emptiness and disillusionment and this sadness that is not fully expressed, the loneliness which the she of the story, felt growing up. This feeling of, I'm here all alone. I'm empty. I'm not living my life. At the same time, the incredible hurt and disappointment of the parents and all of this, it conveys that set of emotions powerfully. But it's not necessarily what we might expect with a story like this, especially if it was inspired by a newspaper, as we all know. Those things tend to be kind of dramatic and telling all the details and laying them out in front of the public eyes, and you might expect the singer to give this sort of impression in the music. Funny, now I'm just thinking, the Beatles version is almost like reading a black and white newspaper, isn't it? And the very dry way in which news articles, news facts, the facts of the story are sometimes recited with a little bit of embellishment sometimes, but still it's black and white, it's paper. Now this is different. This is like somebody's taken that and turned it into a book. A little book perhaps, but or maybe not a book, maybe a journal entry or sharing the story among. It has a little bit more of a feeling of wanting to express all the other emotions that we might first expect to hear, but we didn't hear in the Beatles. Instead, the Beatles gave us that incredible, empty, lonely, hurt feeling. Anyway, it's a nice shift in the perspective, isn't it? And yet we still feel like this is genuinely she's leaving home.
Friday morning at 9 o'clock, she is far away, waiting to keep the appointment she made, meeting the man from the motor trade. What did we do that was wrong? We didn't know it was wrong. Fun is the one thing that we can't buy. Inside that was always denied for so many years. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Such an interesting ending. It's the plagal cadence, the 4-to-1 that just brings it gentle close. You know, I really this moment here, I'll have to find it because I didn't count the seconds.
Friday morning at 9 o'clock, she is far away, waiting to keep the appointment she made, meeting the man from the motor trade.
This. Yeah, Where did that come from? It's the first time that it has really stepped up. It's been doing things, right? We've been doing arpeggios and stuff underneath, but here it's almost like it sticks its head out the top and laughs. Ha 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 ha. And what's that all about? Well, this is the verse about her getting her freedom and finding her freedom and the relief, the happiness. She's happy. And I imagine it as being a sort of a, thinking back to that era, I'm thinking, okay, maybe she's kicking up her heels a little bit and her skirt does a little flip as she trips down or up some steps. And is that pop, 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 pop.
She made, meeting the man from the motor trade.
Right after it says, meeting the man from the motor trade, and the excitement, and I can do something.
What did we do that was wrong?
Now we're back to,
We didn't know it was wrong.
she is happy.
Fun is the one thing that we
There's a feeling of release here.
that was always denied for so many.
This layering of bit of organ. I said I would comment on Harry's voice, and it's a very nice voice. I like it. At least having listened to this one song, I think he has a very expressive, natural, and colorful voice. I like it. And I feel like, comparing the two, the original with the cover, what do the voices... Okay, there's the instrumental mix, which that's interesting, and that did give some different textures, different emphases on different parts of the support. But this song is really about the story being told in the singers. And the instruments are commentary on that story, but they take second place. When Paul sings it, I'm going to go back to this description of newspaper. It's a recitation. It's a report on an event that happened, and that's why I criticized them back then. Now I feel like it works incredibly well. It's very appropriate and powerfully impactful as well, with the whole setup and everything. But still, there is that distance, that removal. The reporter isn't particularly emotionally devastated by this himself. There's this sort of cheeriness, this happiness to recite the facts. And in the Beatles version, it is the choruses where we hear the conversational lines layered, and it is the instrumental commentary which adds the emotional weight and kind of punch to the stomach feel that the piece gives. Now here with Harry Nilsson, it's a bit different. His instrumental mix is nice. It's very pleasant and engaging, interesting, multifaceted. It pulls you in that way. It doesn't have the same emotional impact that the Beatles version had. However, Harry's voice does something, puts a different perspective on the story. Harry's voice conveys more of the emotion of the moment, the sadness. It's almost as if he's telling it from the parents' perspective. He's sympathizing with the parents. He's perhaps a friend of the parents or something like that. And he has sympathy. He understands that the girl had to leave, but there's a sympathy for the parents and what they're feeling in his voice. And somehow that comes out more in this cover than I picked up in the Beatles version. And it's so much fun to listen to these different interpretations of the same piece of music, and to notice, as I said at the beginning of this series, to notice how the different ways of handling the music impact how we feel it. And this is one of those moments where Harry's voice and his interpretation of this, his cover of this, really makes us sympathize more with the parents, doesn't it? The Beatles version, we kind of feel like the parents had it coming. They should have known. I mean, hard-hearted, stuck-up parents, and yes, they gave her everything and everything and everything, but they didn't give her the love that she needed and the soul of life, the life and feeling of soul and fullness in her life. But with Harry Nilsson, I don't walk away with that feeling of emptiness. And I like that it gives this different perspective. I like that it makes us view the story from a different angle, feel the story differently. And I wouldn't say that one is more appropriate than the other, or even that one is better than the other. Perhaps you have favorites for who knows whatever reason. Maybe it was the first thing you heard. Maybe you prefer the voice or the instrumental mix, one or the other. But to me, it's more than just which one is my favorite. It is, what do they bring to the music and to what we gain from hearing it? And, well, that's my first listen of Harry Nilsson. I guess I'm going to try to explore some more of his music at some point, because he does have a very nice voice and his instrumental handling is fascinating to me. But really an excellent cover of this piece, which brings a new perspective to the music. And as an artist, as a performer, you always want your efforts to be meaningful and not redundant. This is that. Therefore, I would say it is a great cover. I'll see you soon.